It's good afternoon for me, but morning for you. AM Jaxon, thank you. Welcome back to Yellow Shelf.
Thank you very much for having me. It's good to be back.
Yeah, we were only talking a few months ago. And even in that interview, I said, will you come back? And exciting, you're back. You're
I'm
back.
back.
Yes, you're back talking about your newest book that's out now, Joshua's Story. Congratulations. What do we need to know about the new book?
Well, it's the continuing story of Saoirse, but it's how I guess mainly we continue not only her story, but the other story of strong women's and voices and what women do basically. So some women don't seem to be strong, but there are underlying facets about them, which I tried to discover or at least write about when I was writing all these short stories to stretch my voice as an author. So I had still some stories left over, and at the end of Saoirse's story, we kind of left her in a happy ever after for now situation, and she was going off to New York. So she meets up with wonderful, sassy characters, up to single-minded women. We meet her 8 years later, so she's a little wiser and a lot tougher than the first, we met her at 17, 18, leaving Ireland. She meets up with Josh halfway through the book. He's got his own dark past and troubles and flaws. So they eventually kind of hook up. And my thing about it is that, yeah, there are still the twists, hopefully surprise twists in the characters that you meet. There's steam and suspense and spice. And of course, at the end, is she going to meet up with Chad again, her stalker, and how does that all play out? And what happens with Blaze? So, yeah, it's all still in there, still in the mix, and hopefully comes to a great conclusion at the end.
Yeah. So, I mean, as you mentioned, this is book two in the Love Connection series.
Yeah.
So we've connected the dots. Best described, I guess, for any first time watcher today as romantic suspense. Is that the way you describe?
Yeah. Definitely romance, definitely suspense. A combination of stories that are threaded together by two main characters. So Saoirse to begin with, looking at different people that she came along and met in life. So like everyone, we meet characters, we meet people, and we get to observe, I guess, a thin sort of veneer of what we see, of what they show in public. But then I write the stories so that she connects them and you go deeper and you see what they're undergoing in life. And hopefully she learns a bit from that. And I kind of based it on working in the medical world and coaching women in hockey. And you see all these different characters. You see all at times when people are under pressure, there's stuff, it wasn't necessarily hockey pressure or work pressure, but there are things that come out and, women deal with it.
Yeah.
So I was trying to capture that in the
Yeah.
stories of all the women, which you just can't do with one character because otherwise that'd be a bit sort of multi-personality. So hence, yeah,
Yeah,
where we are.
no, fabulous. And I'm glad you touched on that because I know from the first interview, it's something I didn't ask you about or we didn't sort of cover is you've been an international hockey coach, but you've
Yes.
also had this career. So if I'd love you to share a bit about, you as a journey to the author, because I think that's fascinating.
Well, I think I always loved sport and I grew up in North Queensland, far North Queensland, and, we just did sport. Everyone went out and played because the weather was really great. Um, I had a father and a brother who were pretty much always, and a sister who were pretty much athletic, um, but never great. So, like, I made a state underage team, but hockey wise. So, and also from a generation where your parents said, get a career,
Yeah.
where sport wasn't a career back then, showing my age. So, I also liked I guess talking to people, can't tell, but I found that going into the medical industry, well, world as a pharmacist, and I went from far north Queensland in isolation to the big smoke in
Mhm.
Brisbane, learned a bit then, and then kind of travelled with with pharmacy, which you could then,
Mm.
and met people. So sort of circling around, came back to Australia, fell into back to playing hockey and the love of it, and then got injured, and then thought if I'm going to stay with this sport, I will need to coach. So I started coaching. And I coached a few age state teams, but then I was playing masters hockey, which is over the age of 34.
Yes.
And having not been able to play anymore, I decided to coach. And from there, I got state teams and Hockey Australia masters teams.
Wow.
And that led me to I've coached two World Cup golds and one silver and Trans Tasmans, and you meet a whole range of people, both in the opposition and in your
Yes.
team. So
Yes.
that's me. And then from that, work was getting a bit boring, and I did a PhD and went into project management in primary healthcare. Again, it became a bit of a cookie cutter thing. I guess I get plagued by boredom.
And you move on.
I'll move on. So I was like, you know, I had when I was doing the PhD, my supervisor said, "This reads like a suspense story. I need all the facts up front, then your argument behind." And I thought, well, maybe I should do that.
Yeah.
And so I eased out of the whole both were well, I hung on to hockey, but I eased out of the medical world and started writing.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Oh, here we are. And it's so good, in this second interview with you, we could find out about that because that's just fascinating on this journey. So I'm going to be cheeky and ask, are there more? Like what's coming? Are
Oh,
we, yeah,
I'm glad you are asking because with this, I have a couple of stories which I couldn't include because they were too big. So there will be a vote. One after Josh has been out there for a while,
yeah,
people will be able to go to my website at amjaxon.com, and there'll be a I don't know, I guess it's just a
yeah,
vote.
okay.
And there'll be three people they can choose from. Or four characters, so from both books.
Yes.
So you get to choose because I've got these novellas of about 20,000 words. One of them, actually, I have a whole sketch for a novel, but I'm not going to say who the character is so I don't skew the
You
voting.
don't, yeah, yeah.
So obviously that'll take me a while to write, but I mean 20,000 words is not a novel. But I have the backstories, so people will be able to go in and then vote for which character they'd like a whole novel about. So that's coming up.
That is great to hear. That, and it's great to hear that we can kind of get involved too.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess I figured that some of these characters I really love and I can't let go of them. So, hopefully
Yeah.
other people who read the books will love them.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's all very exciting. Tell us, I'll put this in the show notes. I'll put a link into our previous interview about Saoirse's story, and I'll put a link into your website as well. But tell us, how do we connect with you? Which direction do you want us to go in to
Oh, well,
get curious?
Instagram is easiest. Facebook,
Yeah.
all the socials, so you can get me there. I'm still learning a whole lot of this stuff. So, but mainly, yeah, Instagram and Facebook, and also just on my website, you
Yeah.
can contact me. Also, when you vote,
Mm.
there is a 5,000 word free story that you'll get, which one of the
Oh,
fit characters who
oh,
surfaces in Josh, and she's quite an interesting and over the top kind of New Yorker. So that's what there's a reward
yeah.
for you when you vote. So
Excellent.
yeah, that. And you can, I mean, the books are just at the normal platforms and bookstores.
Yeah.
Yeah, just
Oh,
getting it
look,
out there.
I'll put it in the show notes to make it really easy. AM Jaxon, thank you for joining us. You know I'm going to want you back in the future.
Well, there's a whole trilogy. Like I'm on my seventh book, but it's a whole new far north Queensland where I grew up story, romantic suspense
Ah,
with the whole Queensland, far north Queensland vein. So
Fabulous.
there's one finished, one I'm just putting finishing touches to, having had it edited. So polishing, polishing, polishing. So lots to come.
Fabulous. Well, Joshua's story is out now. Thank you for
Yes.
joining us, and I know we will be talking again.
Oh, it'd be a pleasure. Thank you very much.
Cheers.